welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I want to talk about the 24 books that I want to read this year in 2024. Some of these books are already out and I already have them, and some of them will be new releases that have yet to come out. So let's just get started with the list. So going through the books that I already have, first on the list is House of Flame and Shadow. This is the third book in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. This is the third book, as I said, in the Crescent City series. So obviously I can give a full synopsis or even a brief synopsis of what House of Flame and Shadow is about, but I can tell you that the first book, House of Earth and Blood, follows Bryce Quinlan. She's a half-fae, half-human woman who lives in this fictional world called Crescent City. And in this city, it is made up of a bunch of different fictional creatures that all live in a very modern world, like a very modern city. So just think I guess like LA, but filled with like magical creatures like fae and angels and werewolves and all those kinds of creatures. This one night something tragic happens in Bryce's life and it kind of completely upends her life. I don't even want to tell you guys a spoiler for that in case you haven't gotten into this series. I've read quite a few of Sarah J. Maas's works, and this series is my favorite. I'm very excited to I've already made it about 50 pages into this book. So I'm very excited to actually finish it this year, which I know I will. The second book that I want to finish in 2024 is, actually I'm going to talk about these next 4 books together because they're all part of the same series. Now it's The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, and Rhythm of War. These are the 4 books that are currently out in Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archives series. Now, I absolutely love this epic fantasy series. It's a big series. Like each book is over 1,000 pages, but I thoroughly enjoy reading them. It's kind of hard to describe what Stormlight Archives is about. It basically follows these 3 people, Kaladin, Shallan, and Dalinar, who live on this world called Roshar, which is part of Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere universe. And on Roshar, there are these high storms, which kind of are like hurricanes that sweep across their world on a regular basis. And the world has kind of adapted to these high storms. And these high storms also provide like a magical source of power to the people and creatures on this planet. And the main conflict of this story is one of the races on this planet murders the king of this very powerful country called Alethkar. Kaladin, Shallan, and Dalinar all have a part to play in this upcoming war and what happens as a result of this war. That's basically all I can say. I really don't like giving too much away. I definitely recommend this series. It's very easy to get into. May seem intimidating because of how long it is, but Brandon Sanderson has a very straightforward, approachable writing style. It's not too flowery, not too difficult to understand, and his world building and his magic systems are so interesting. So I definitely highly recommend those. Now those are 5 books. The next one that I want to read this year is Bookshops and Bone Dust. This is the second book in Travis Baldry's I don't know if it'll be a series, but it's the sequel to Legends and Lattes that came out I think last year or the year before. And I really enjoyed this book. It's like a cozy fantasy series about this orc who basically retires from fighting in wars and just wants to open up a coffee shop. And it's so cute. It's so heartwarming following this woman or orc. It's so nice to see her following her dreams, and you just get this really warm feeling inside as you're reading this book. And so, or while I was reading Legends and Lattes, so I'm very excited to get into Bookshops and Bone Dust, which I also already have. The next book I want to read is Defiant. This is another Brandon Sanderson book. It's the 4th and last book in Brandon Sanderson's young adult sci-fi series called Skyward. Now this is the only sci-fi book that I've read from Brandon Sanderson, and you know, as I've mentioned before, I really enjoy his writing style and his world building, and this is a completely different world from the Stormlight Archive. I really enjoy following these characters and getting to understand the history and the lore of this world and kind of uncovering the mysteries as we go along. The series basically follows a young woman who dreams of becoming a pilot, and these pilots are basically the only defense that the human race has against these alien creatures that are attempting to destroy the last civilization of humankind. And I'm excited to see where Brandon Sanderson takes this world. Like, the ending of the last book was intense, so I'm very excited to see how he plans to wrap up this series, and I hope it ends on a good note. I've seen a lot of good, I haven't watched any particular reviews, but I've heard in general that the fans of this series have enjoyed the ending, so I'm excited for that. The next book I also want to read is another book that's part of a series. It's Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. Yes, Alice Oseman. And this series is a graphic novel, young adult romance that follows these two teenage boys who fall in love. And this is another series that I read because it's so heartwarming. It's so cute. I'm usually not a fan of romance books, but I feel like with Heartstopper, the challenges that these two teenage boys go through being gay and coming out to the world, to their friends, to their family, and all the struggles they go through, it's, I guess, seeing the struggles they go through is very saddening, but the resilience they show and the love that they have for each other is just, it just gives you hope that, you know, that love is real and love is out there and anybody can find it. And I know that sounds so cheesy and this story may seem kind of cheesy, but I really like it, so I'm excited to continue on. Another book I want to read in 2024 is Divine Rivals by, who is that book by? Hang on. So Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross follows these two young journalists who are basically rivals at this fantastical newspaper company where they report on this ongoing war between gods, basically. So there's this war going on, and these two rivals both want to win this promotion, but I guess what happens is the female love interest is intending to write letters to her brother who went off to the war, and when she sends it off through this magical teleportation thing, instead of ending up going to her brother, it ends up getting read by her rival who writes her back, and I guess they kind of fall in love that way. Personally, like, the synopsis of this story didn't sound that interesting to me, but every single person that I've heard talk about this book really liked it, so I feel like I have to give it a shot. The next book I'm gonna read is 7 Days in June. So 7 Days in June by Tia Williams is basically about these two authors, and it's a second chance romance, I believe, where these two authors reconnect after 20 years being apart. So when they were younger, they met in the summer and enjoyed these wonderful few days together. In the years that have gone by since they've been apart, they've been secretly writing to each other in their books, and then they eventually meet up again 20 years in the future, and I guess their romance is rekindled. This is another book that I typically probably wouldn't read. Like, I'm not much of a contemporary romance reader. Adding the parts of the fact that these two love interests are authors, all the great things that I've heard about this book made me a little bit interested to get it, and hopefully I'll read it this year. Oh, I should have talked about this next book with the Stormlight Archive, the 5th book in the Stormlight Archive, which is coming out in December, if I'm not mistaken. So this is the 5th and final book in the first arc or first part of the Stormlight Archive. I'm so excited for this book to come out. I'm currently working through my reread so that I can be refreshed on this series, and I've been catching a lot of things that I didn't catch before in my first read of this story. So I'm very excited to get into this book after I've done all my rereads of the previous ones. Now, the next book I want to read in 2024 is Ninth House. So Ninth House is by Leigh Bardugo, and I've typically liked Leigh Bardugo's previous books, and I think this is the first book that I'm going to read by her that is an adult book. And this book follows this young woman who is the sole survivor of this multiple homicide, and I guess people basically think that she's thrown her life away because of all her bad decisions, but she's basically given the second chance to restart her life by getting a full ride to one of the top universities in the country. And the only catch is she has to basically be a spy for her benefactors. She has to spy on the elite societies that basically run the underground world of this university in particular. And I believe this is also like this series also has a fantastical twist where it's not just regular people doing regular bad things. They have like powers, and there's paranormal things going on. So this one's a little bit out of left field, but because it's by Leigh Bardugo and it's her first adult series, I feel like I should give it a shot, and I might just enjoy it. The next book that I want to read in 2024 is Midnight Sun by Stephenie Meyer. So Midnight Sun has been on my shelves for like 3 years now. It's basically Twilight from Edward Cullen's point of view, and I read the whole Twilight series when I was in middle school and high school, and I basically just got this book because I have a completionist mentality. I don't really care about the spin-offs, but I do care about books that are essentially a part of the main series. You know, it may be good for laughs, or I may really just enjoy it. It may be nice to kind of get that nostalgic feeling of going back into this world. I don't know if it will do well in today's time and age. We'll see how I feel about it now as an adult versus how I felt when I was a teenager. So we'll see how that goes. The other book I want to read in 2024 is The Starless Sea. So The Starless Sea is by Erin Morgenstern, and this will be my first book by Erin Morgenstern that I try out. And from what I gather, it's a fantasy novel that's a little bit strange. It might not be straight fantasy, it might also be a bit of like magical realism. And I heard that it's a very beautiful book. It basically follows this man who is reading through books in this library, and he basically comes across this book that basically tells a story from his childhood, and he gets entranced by it and basically follows clues in this book that leads to this secret passageway into this hidden underground magical world. It sounds very strange, very like I may not really fully know what's going on, or the world may not completely make sense, which typically isn't my style. I kind of like more of a hard magic system when it comes to my fantasy novels, but I'm hoping that the writing will be, you know, magical, beautiful, and it'll be something different that I want to try. The next book I want to read is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. So I really enjoyed Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. I think Daughter of Smoke and Bone was a series that came out before that one. And because I enjoyed Laini Taylor's writing, I really want to get into another series by her so I can get back into her writing style. I'm not even gonna lie, I have no idea what this series is about. I believe it's a fantasy romance that follows this girl who's trying to discover herself, and she basically meets this guy who helps her uncover the secrets of her past or the secrets of who she is. Something like that, but I really have no idea. I just want to read more Laini Taylor works. Okay, this next book that I want to read in 2024 is probably the book that's been on my TBR shelf for the longest time. I think I've had this book on my shelf since 2020. It's A Curse So Dark and Lonely. So this book is a book by Bridget Kemmerer, and I believe it's a retelling of Beauty and the Beast. I think this girl from the real world or our world gets transported to a fantasy world where she is tasked with trying to break this curse on this man and his household. Like I think basically he has to get her to fall in love with him, just like the regular Beauty and the Beast retelling, if I'm not mistaken. So it's really giving A Court of Thorns and Roses vibes, but I think this is more young adult than that, and I feel like I have to give this book at least a little bit of a try since it's been on my shelf for so long. But if I give it at least 50 pages and I don't like it, I just need to get it off my shelves. It's been on there for way too long. The next book that I want to read, it's kind of a cheat because it's not just one book. This is actually a series of books that I'm currently reading, and it is the illustrated editions of the Harry Potter series. Now, I've read the Harry Potter series many times, but I've never gone through the illustrated editions. So this year, I want to reread the story, but reread the illustrated version so I can see the beautiful illustrations inside and kind of re-experience the world in a new way. If you don't know what the Harry Potter series is about, I think you've been living under a rock, or you know, just watch the movies. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. The next book that I want to read in 2024 is House of Leaves. Now, this book is super intimidating. I don't really even know what this book is about, but I've heard that it's told in like a multimedia format where you may have to like turn the book around or read it through a mirror and try and like solve the mystery of this series. It's by Mark Z. Danielowski. I feel like everything I've heard about this book is it's a challenge to get through. A lot of people do give up. I did buy the book because I wanted to give it a shot and see how difficult it is. So it's basically about this young family that moves into this new house where things are just strange. It says that the inside of the house is bigger than the outside, and this young family starts to experience some really strange things. Like their children wander off and start hearing voices, and things start happening in the house, and the book basically recounts what happens in this house, and you have to kind of piece it together. That's all I really know. I do not know if I'm smart enough to get through this book, to understand it in any way, but here's hoping for the best. Another book I'm going to read in 2024 is the What to Expect When You're Expecting book. I'm currently expecting my first child, so as I advance in my pregnancy, I'm just reading each chapter one by one. So by the time I give birth to my baby, I should be done with this book. Another book that I'm reading because I'm pregnant is Crib Sheet. It's a data-driven book about parenting. So if you've ever wondered about why parents are advised to do certain things, such as sleep training or bottle feeding versus breastfeeding or vaccinations, or all these sorts of discussions that a lot of parents think about is discussed in this book, and it is backed up by data and studies that have been done so that you can hopefully learn more and make your own decisions with some educated information to back it up. So the next 4 books that I'm going to be talking about are books that have not come out yet, or at least I don't think they've come out yet. The first one is Mislaid in Parts Unknown. So this is the next book in the Wayward Children series by Shauna McGuire. I have no idea what this book is about. All I know is I'm completely caught up with the series. I think they're right behind me. And I've really been enjoying them so far. Some more than others for sure. But I definitely want to continue on with these series about these children who go through magical portals into other lands and what they experience when they go there. So it's a portal fantasy series following different kids, different teenagers who experience many different worlds. Some of them wanting to go back and some of them not wanting to go back at any costs. So yep, that's the next book. So the next book I want to read in 2024 is The Reappearance of Rachel Price. Now this is a new book by Holly Jackson, who wrote the Good Girls Guide to Murder series. I really enjoyed that trilogy, and except for the ending. I enjoyed the first 2 books for sure. And this is a new young adult mystery novel by her, and it follows a completely different character who is trying to solve the disappearance of her mother. So Belle is 18 years old, and 16 years ago her mother disappeared and she was the only witness, and 16 years later her mother reappears, and they're filming a documentary about what happened to her mom. So in this documentary, her mom is saying what happened to her, and Belle is not sure if she believes it. So I believe she's trying to figure out what is real and what is not real in her mother's story and kind of uncover what really happened. The next book I want to get into is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. So Somewhere Beyond the Sea is the sequel to The House on the Cerulean Sea. And this series basically follows these 6 magical children who are orphaned and live at this house for magical orphan children. And I guess with these children, their lives are drastically changed because of the powers they have. They can't live a normal life because Many people, many normal people find them to be dangerous, and they're just trying to live their best life in this house, being taken care of by this man and a few other people who really care about them. And this is a very like heartwarming, cute young adult story. Actually, I'm not even sure if it's young adult. Like there are certain things that happen in this book that kind of make me question, is this book young adult? Is it new adult? Is it just adult? And then some parts are very middle grade, because when you're following the story of these children and seeing the story from their point of view. But it's a very unique book for me, and I definitely want to see what happens to these children and this orphanage. Okay, finally, the last book on my list of books to read in 2024 is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. So this is probably a strange one. I think Ali Hazelwood is mainly known for writing contemporary romance novels, and I've never read any of her books before, but the reason I'm interested in reading this one is this is her first fantasy romance following a vampire bride and her werewolf groom. So I'm guessing it's like a, star-crossed lovers, enemies to lovers kind of romance novel. And I like to see what Ali Hazelwood can do with a fantasy romance. As you probably can tell, as I've said many times in this video, I'm typically not a romance reader, but I definitely can enjoy a good fantasy romance. So I like to, try Ali Hazelwood's writing in a genre that I would typically enjoy. So hopefully this will be a good one. Wow. Okay, that's it, guys. Those are all of the 24 books that I want to read in 2024. I'm really hoping if I can get through all 24 of these, then I hope I can get through a majority of them. Wish me luck, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye.